Little boy begged Mafia to arrest him. The Russo crime family was having dinner at their private restaurant when this skinny, bruised child appeared at their table begging to be taken to prison. The entire room went silent as this 7-year-old kid stood trembling before 15 of the most dangerous men in the city. Men who controlled everything from the docks to City Hall. Men whose names made grown adults go pale with fear. And this child was asking them to arrest him for stealing candy. Before we continue with this thrilling story, drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is in your city. Smash that subscribe button because you do not want to miss what these Mafia soldiers did for this kid. Dominic Russo sat at the head of the table, a man whose word was law in 6 states, whose organization moved millions weekly, whose reputation made federal prosecutors lose sleep. He was eating linguine with his top lieutenants when the boy appeared out of nowhere, slipping past security like a ghost. "Please arrest me right now," the boy said, his voice shaking but determined. "I'm a criminal. I deserve to go to jail." Every man at that table stopped eating. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Wine glasses paused midair. Because in their world, people begged not to go to jail. People paid fortunes to avoid prison. People disappeared rather than face the system. But this child, this tiny broken thing, was begging for it. Dominic wiped his mouth with a cloth napkin, his dark eyes studying the boy with the same intensity he used to evaluate business deals and identify threats. "What's your name, son?" "Marcus," the boy whispered, his eyes fixed on the floor like he didn't deserve to look up. "Marcus what?" "Marcus Williams, sir." Dominic noticed everything in 3 seconds. The bruises on the boy's arms, fresh and finger-shaped. The black eye that was maybe 2 days old. The way he held himself, protective and small, like he was used to making himself invisible. The dirt under his fingernails. The torn shirt. The shoes held together with duct tape. This wasn't poverty. This was neglect. This was abuse. "Why do you want to be arrested, Marcus?" Dominic asked, his voice gentle in a way that would have shocked his enemies. "Because I stole something really bad," Marcus said, pulling a half-melted candy bar from his pocket. His hand shook as he held it out like evidence. "Criminals go to jail. That's the rule. So I need to go to jail now, please." Silence crashed through the restaurant like a bomb. These men, these soldiers who'd seen everything, who'd done everything, who thought nothing could surprise them anymore, were completely stunned. A child was turning himself into the Mafia for stealing a $1 candy bar because he thought that was his ticket to 3 meals a day. Marco, Dominic's right-hand man and the scariest enforcer in the organization, leaned forward. His face was covered in scars from 20 years of street wars. "When did you last eat, kid?" Marcus started counting on his small fingers, his lips moving silently. "Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days. I haven't eaten in 4 days." "For days?" Tony exploded, slamming his hand on the table so hard glasses rattled. "For days? You're 7 years old. Why haven't you eaten in 4 days?" Marcus looked at the floor again, tears building in his eyes. "Can't say." "Why not?" Dominic pressed, but his voice stayed gentle. "Because if I tell you," the boy's voice cracked, "you might feed me. And then I can't go to jail where they give you 3 meals every day. And bed. And nobody hits you there, because there's cameras everywhere." The truth detonated like a grenade. This child wanted to be arrested because jail was safer than his home. Because prison offered more protection than his own family. Because the criminal justice system was more merciful than whoever was supposed to be taking care of him. Every man at that table had done terrible things. They'd hurt people, destroyed lives, built an empire on fear and violence. But not one of them had ever hurt a child. That was the line. The one rule that even the darkest souls in their organization never crossed. "Where are your parents?" Dominic asked. "My dad died," Marcus whispered. "He was a soldier. He died in Afghanistan when I was 5 protecting his unit from an ambush." Dominic's expression changed. A Gold Star child. Son of a fallen hero. The entire table shifted, sitting straighter, paying attention differently now. This wasn't just any kid. This was a warrior's son. "What about your mom?" Marco asked carefully. "She married Derek 2 years ago," Marcus said, and his whole body tensed at the name. "He doesn't like me very much. Said I remind him of my dad, and my dad was stupid for dying." Pure rage flashed through every set of eyes at that table. Disrespecting a fallen soldier was unforgivable. Beating his son was a death sentence waiting to happen. Dominic noticed the bruises weren't from playing. They were deliberate, calculated. adult-sized. Did Derek give you that black eye? Dominic pointed at Marcus's face. Marcus went completely silent, which was answer enough. These men knew what silence meant. They'd used it themselves during interrogations. Silence was admission. Silence was truth. Where is Derek now? Tony asked, his knuckles already cracking with anticipation. Home with Mom, Marcus whispered. He said if I came back he'd make sure I couldn't walk for a week. He said I was worthless just like my dad. He said soldiers are stupid and weak, and anyone who joins the military deserves what they get. Every single man at that table was ready for violence. Immediate, brutal, permanent violence. Disrespecting the military was bad enough. Beating a veteran's son was worse. But calling a fallen hero stupid and weak while beating his child? That was signing your own death warrant. How long have you been on the streets? Dominic asked. 2 days, Marcus admitted. I slept behind the gas station dumpster the first night. Last night I slept in the park, but these older kids chased me away. Today I walked around until I saw you guys, and I thought maybe you could arrest me because you look important and scary. Dominic made a decision that would change absolutely everything. Okay, Marcus, we'll arrest you. But first we need to follow proper procedure. Marcus's eyes lit up with desperate hope. What procedure? Every criminal gets a last meal before jail, Dominic lied smoothly. It's federal law. We can't process you without it. He turned to the restaurant owner who was watching from behind the bar. Bring this dangerous criminal the biggest steak you have. Mashed potatoes, vegetables, bread, soda, ice cream, everything. This is a major case, and we need to do it right. Marcus sat down slowly, like he couldn't believe what was happening. You're really going to feed me and then arrest me? That's the law, Marco confirmed, playing along. Can't break federal procedure. While Marcus devoured food like a starving wolf, literally crying while he ate because it tasted so good, Dominic made phone calls. Quiet calls. Dangerous calls. Calls that set wheels in motion. Sal, I need complete information on Derek Thompson. Married to Angela Williams 2 years ago. She's the widow of Sergeant Marcus Williams, killed in action. I want his address, his history, his habits, everything. Do it now. Within 5 minutes, Sal called back. Derek Thompson, age 38. Married Angela Williams 24 months ago. Address is 2847 Maple Street, 15 minutes from your location. No job, living off her veteran death benefits. Criminal history, 2 domestic violence arrests with his ex-wife. Charges dropped both times when she refused to testify. Restraining order filed by his sister. 3 bar fights. 1 assault charge dismissed due to lack of evidence. This guy's a professional woman beater who found a grieving widow to exploit. Dominic's jaw clenched so hard a vein pulsed in his temple. This scumbag had a pattern. Beat women. Intimidate them into silence. Move on to the next victim. And now he was beating a soldier's son while living off that soldier's death benefits. That wasn't just criminal. That was sacrilege. Marcus looked up from his empty plate, his face smeared with food, his eyes bright for the first time. Am I going to jail now? Soon, Dominic said. But first we need to visit your house to collect your belongings. That's part of the arrest process. Terror flashed across Marcus's face. No, please don't go there. Derek will hurt you too. He's really mean and big, and he hits really hard. 15 Mafia soldiers smiled at that. Every single one of them had killed people with their bare hands. Let him try, Tony said darkly. I'd love for him to try. They left the restaurant in a convoy of black SUVs with tinted windows, the kind that made pedestrians cross the street and police look the other way. Marcus rode with Dominic, sitting in the back seat staring out the window like he couldn't believe this was real. Are you really going to arrest me? Marcus asked quietly. We're really going to help you, Dominic replied. That's what we do. We protect people who can't protect themselves. But you're Mafia, Marcus said. My teacher said Mafia are bad guys. Your teacher doesn't know everything, Dominic said. We're bad to bad people, but we're good to good people. And you, Marcus Williams, son of a hero, you're good people. The convoy pulled up to a small house with an American flag in the window, probably from when Marcus's real father was alive. The neighborhood was quiet, working class, the kind of place where people minded their own business and didn't ask questions. Perfect place for an abuser to operate without interference. Dominic knocked on the door. Polite. Professional. Like he was delivering pizza instead of judgment. A man answered, reeking of beer and cigarettes, wearing a stained wife beater and sweatpants. His eyes were bloodshot and mean. Yeah? What do you want? We're returning Marcus, Dominic said calmly. Derek's bloodshot eyes found Marcus hiding behind the Mafia soldiers, and his face twisted into something ugly and cruel. That little brat finally came crawling back, Derek slurred, reaching for Marcus with a hand that had beaten this child too many times. Big mistake. Dominic caught Derek's wrist mid-reach and squeezed, his grip like a steel trap closing on bone. Derek yelped in pain, suddenly very sober, suddenly understanding he'd just made a catastrophic error. Let's talk privately, Dominic suggested in a voice that wasn't a suggestion at all. It was a command wrapped in velvet menace. Angela appeared in the doorway, and every soldier saw everything they needed to see in one glance. Fresh black eye, probably from this morning. Bruised arms in the shape of fingerprints. Split lip that was trying to heal. The defeated posture of a woman who'd been beaten down so many times she'd forgotten how to stand straight. This wasn't just abuse. This was systematic destruction of a human being. Marcus, Angela cried, trying to reach for her son. But Marcus backed away from his own mother, and that broke every heart watching. You picked him over Daddy, Marcus said quietly, his 7-year-old voice carrying a pain no child should ever know. You let him say bad things about Daddy, and you didn't stop him. Those words shattered Angela completely. She collapsed against the doorframe sobbing, and the soldiers saw the truth written all over her. She hadn't picked Derek. She'd been trapped, manipulated, beaten into submission until she couldn't protect herself, let alone her son. Derek tried to recover his false courage, puffing out his chest like he was tough. Get off my property before I call the cops, he threatened. Please do, Marco said, stepping forward with a smile that promised violence. I would love to explain to the police how you've been beating a war widow and her 7-year-old son while living off a fallen soldier's death benefits. You really want to have that conversation? Derek's face went pale as he realized these weren't random guys. These were connected guys. Organized guys. Dangerous guys. The kind who made problems disappear permanently. You can't prove anything, Derek stammered, but his voice had lost all its power. That's when Sal held up his phone showing a crystal-clear video recording of Marcus describing every beating, every injury, every threat, every moment of terror. Timestamps, dates, details that would bury Derek in court or in the ground, whichever came first. Actually, Sal said pleasantly, we can prove everything. And we've already sent copies to the district attorney, Child Protective Services, and about 15 news organizations. You're famous now, Derek. Congratulations. Derek made the fatal mistake that sealed his fate. He swung at Dominic. The punch never came close to landing. Dominic caught his fist mid-air, twisted Derek's arm behind his back with practiced efficiency, and slammed him face first into the wall so hard the house shook. Family photos crashed to the floor. You like hitting kids? Dominic asked quietly, his voice dropping to a whisper that was somehow more terrifying than shouting. How about you try hitting someone who hits back? Let's see how tough you really are when your victim isn't 7 years old and starving. Please don't hurt him, Angela begged from the doorway. If you hurt him, he'll be worse after you leave. He always gets worse after. That stopped Dominic cold because she was right. They couldn't guard this family 24/7. They couldn't station soldiers outside forever. The moment they left, Derek would escalate. He'd take his humiliation out on Angela and Marcus. The beating would be worse than ever. They needed a permanent solution, not a temporary beating. Pack your things, Dominic told Angela, releasing Derek who slumped against the wall. You and Marcus are leaving right now. Tonight. Forever. I can't leave, Angela protested weakly. I have nowhere to go. No family. No money. Derek controls everything. I can't just walk away. Yes, you can, said a new voice that changed everything. Everyone turned to see a woman in military dress uniform with sergeant stripes and enough medals to prove she'd seen real combat. I'm Sergeant Lisa Martinez, the woman announced, walking up the driveway with purpose and authority. I served with Marcus Williams in Afghanistan. 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. Your husband saved my life during an ambush in Kandahar province. I've been searching for his family for 2 years. Angela gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Marcus talked about you in his letters. He said you were the toughest soldier in his unit. I was, Lisa confirmed, but her eyes were locked on Derek with pure disgust. Your husband was a hero who died protecting 7 people, including me. He threw himself on a grenade to save his squad. And this is how you honor his memory? By beating his wife and son? Derek tried to run. He actually turned and tried to sprint out the back door like a coward. 3 Mafia soldiers materialized out of nowhere and tackled him to the ground. Tony sat on his back, while Sal zip-tied his hands. Going somewhere? Tony asked cheerfully. We haven't finished our conversation about respect and consequences. Here's what's happening. Dominic announced with the authority of someone who'd made executive decisions about life and death for 20 years. Angela and Marcus are leaving tonight. Derek, you're never contacting them again. Ever. Not a call, not a text, not a letter, not a visit. You vanish from their lives completely and permanently. You can't kidnap my wife, Derek shouted from the ground, his face pressed into the dirt. Your wife? Lisa laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You mean Marcus Williams' wife, who you've been torturing for 2 years while stealing his death benefits? She pulled out her phone. I have 47 members of Marcus' unit ready to testify about what kind of man he was and what kind of filth would abuse his family. Angela found courage she didn't know still existed inside her. I want a divorce, she said, her voice getting stronger with each word. I want you out of my life. Out of my son's life. You're nothing. You're nothing compared to Marcus. He was a hero, and you're a coward who beats women and children. You'll get nothing from me, Derek snarled. I'll take everything in the divorce. You'll be homeless. She'll get everything, said another voice. A man in an expensive suit walked up carrying a leather briefcase. I'm Robert Shun, attorney for the Veterans Legal Defense Fund. We protect Gold Star families from predators exactly like you. He handed Derek a stack of legal documents. Restraining order effective immediately. Divorce papers already filed. Emergency custody granted to Angela. And here's the beautiful part. You're being investigated for benefits fraud. Turns out you can't live off of veterans' death benefits when you're not actually supporting the family. That's federal prison time, Derek. 5 to 10 years minimum. Derek read the papers, and the color drained from his face completely. This says I have to leave my house. It's not your house, the lawyer corrected coldly. It's Angela's house purchased with Marcus Williams' life insurance death benefit. You've been living here illegally for 2 years. We're evicting you tonight. You married me for money? Angela asked, the final betrayal clicking into place. You never loved me. You never cared about Marcus. You just wanted the benefits. Derek's silence was confession enough. Every person standing in that yard saw the truth written on his guilty face. He'd targeted a grieving widow specifically because she had money from her husband's sacrifice. He'd manipulated her trauma, exploited her grief, isolated her from everyone who could help. Classic predator behavior. Dominic released Derek and stepped back. You have 10 minutes to pack one bag and leave forever. Or what? Derek challenged, trying to find courage he didn't possess. Dominic smiled, and it was the scariest thing Derek had ever seen. Or we revisit this conversation somewhere private where there are no witnesses, no cameras, and no rules. Your choice. Derek knew predators when he saw them. He'd been one his whole life, targeting vulnerable women, hurting those weaker than himself. But these men were apex predators, dominators of dominators. And he was suddenly very aware of his mortality. Derek ran inside, threw clothes into a duffel bag, grabbed his laptop and some cash, and was back outside in 8 minutes. He drove away in his truck without looking back, tires squealing, running like the coward he'd always been. Every person in that yard knew he'd never return. Men like Derek only had courage when facing victims. Against real resistance, they folded immediately. Angela collapsed on the front lawn sobbing. I dishonored my husband's memory. I let this happen. I failed Marcus. Our son. No, Lisa said firmly, kneeling beside her. You were a grieving widow who got manipulated by a professional con artist. Derek targeted you specifically because you were vulnerable. That's not your fault. That's his crime. Marcus finally ran to his mother. They held each other crying in the front yard, while 15 Mafia soldiers and a Marine sergeant pretended something was in their eyes. Even the hardest men couldn't watch a Gold Star family reunion without feeling something human break through their armor. Where will we go? Angela asked through her tears. I have no money. Derek controlled everything. The accounts, the bills, everything. There's a program, Lisa explained. Full housing assistance for Gold Star families. Counseling. Job placement. Educational support for Marcus. A whole network of military families who take care of their own. Why didn't I know about this before? Because Derek isolated you from everyone who could help. the lawyer explained. Classic abuser tactic. Cut off family. Control information. Make the victim think they have no options. You had options all along. You just couldn't see them through his manipulation. Dominic knelt beside Marcus, this tiny boy who'd been brave enough to ask the Mafia for help. You're the bravest kid I've ever met. I'm not brave, Marcus protested, wiping his tears with dirty hands. I ran away. I left my mom alone with him. That makes me a coward, just like Derek said. Running from danger to find help isn't cowardice, Dominic said firmly, gripping the boy's small shoulders. It's survival. It's intelligence. You did what trained soldiers do when they're outnumbered and outgunned. You retreated, regrouped, and found reinforcements. That's tactical thinking, Marcus. That's what warriors do. Lisa pulled out her phone and showed Marcus a photo. It was his father in full combat gear surrounded by his unit, all of them smiling despite being in a war zone. Your dad once told me his greatest fear wasn't dying in combat, Lisa said, her voice thick with emotion. His greatest fear was leaving you and your mom unprotected. She looked at the 15 Mafia soldiers surrounding them like a wall of protection. He'd be so proud that when you needed help, you were smart enough and brave enough to find the most dangerous protectors in the city. You did exactly what he would have done. Marcus looked at Dominic with eyes that had seen too much suffering for 7 years. Are you really going to arrest me for stealing the candy bar? Here's your sentence, Dominic said with absolute seriousness. Community service. Every Sunday, you report to our headquarters and you work off your debt to society. That's not jail, Marcus said, confused and a little disappointed. It's better than jail, Marco explained, crouching down to the boy's level. You learn about business. You meet good people. You eat real food. You're safe. And nobody ever hurts you again. Can I bring my mom? Marcus asked hopefully. Your mom is always welcome, Dominic said. She's family now. And we protect family. The word hung in the air with weight and meaning. Family. Not just biology. Not just blood. But chosen family. The kind that shows up when you need them most. The kind that destroys your enemies and builds you back up. The kind that never abandons you. The Mafia soldiers spent the next 3 hours helping Angela and Marcus pack their entire lives. They worked with surprising gentleness. These men whose hands had done terrible things, now carefully wrapping Marcus's toys and Angela's photos. Tony found Marcus's father's military medals hidden in a shoebox in the closet where Derek had thrown them like garbage. He cleaned each one carefully and presented them to Marcus like they were sacred relics. These belong to you, Tony said quietly. Your father earned these protecting our country. They're worth more than anything Derek ever touched. That night, they moved Angela and Marcus into a furnished apartment that the Veterans Defense Fund provided. 2 bedrooms, fully stocked kitchen, safe neighborhood with good schools. It was clean and bright, and nobody would hurt them there. But the Russo family didn't stop. They put the word out. Every criminal organization in 6 states received the same message. Derek Thompson is forbidden. Nobody hires him. Nobody protects him. Nobody does business with him. He's blacklisted permanently. If you see him, you report his location immediately. There's a price on information about him. Not his life, but his location. We want to know where he is at all times. Derek tried to run far. He made it 2 states away before the network found him. He got a job at a warehouse under a fake name. Within a week, someone recognized him and made the call. Dominic received the information and made a decision. He didn't send soldiers. He sent something worse. Evidence. Complete documentation of Derek's benefit fraud went to federal investigators. His history of domestic violence went to local police in his new town. His social security number got flagged in every database that mattered. Within a month, Derek Thompson was arrested for federal benefits fraud and assault on his new girlfriend, who he'd already started beating. The judge saw his history and showed zero mercy. 15 years in federal prison. And federal prison inmates have a code. They don't tolerate men who beat women. They especially don't tolerate men who beat children. They have zero mercy for anyone who disrespects fallen soldiers. Derek's life in prison became exactly what he'd made Marcus's life at home. Fear, pain, isolation, constant threat. He'd created his own hell, and now he'd live in it for 15 years if he survived that long. Meanwhile, Marcus started his community service that Sunday. He walked into the Russo family headquarters expecting something dark and scary like in the movies. Instead, he found 30 men in suits eating breakfast, laughing, treating each other with respect and genuine affection. This wasn't a criminal organization. This was a brotherhood. "Welcome to the family," Dominic announced, and every man in that room stood up and applauded. Marcus Williams, son of Sergeant Marcus Williams, hero of Kandahar. They taught him everything over the following months. Not about crime. About life. About honor and loyalty and protecting those weaker than yourself. About standing up for what's right even when it's dangerous. About being a man of your word. About respecting women and defending children. About the difference between power and strength. Sal taught him about computers and how information was the most valuable currency. Tony taught him about cars and engines and how mechanical things worked. Marco taught him basic self-defense, not to hurt people, but to protect himself and others. And Dominic taught him about leadership, about making hard decisions, about protecting your people even when it costs you everything. Angela got counseling through the Veterans Program and slowly healed from 2 years of systematic abuse. She joined a support group for Gold Star wives and found other women who understood her specific pain. Women who'd lost husbands to war and then gotten exploited by predators who saw their grief as opportunity. They formed bonds stronger than steel, protecting each other, supporting each other, rebuilding each other. She went back to school, got her nursing degree, started working at a VA hospital helping other veterans and their families, turned her pain into purpose, made her suffering mean something by preventing others from experiencing the same. 6 months after that terrible night, Veterans Day arrived. The city held its annual parade honoring fallen soldiers. Marcus stood with his mother on the parade route wearing his father's dog tags around his neck. But something was wrong. "Where did you get those?" Angela gasped, touching the metal tags with shaking hands. "Derek sold these. I watched him sell them to a pawn shop for beer money. I tried to stop him and she couldn't finish." Dominic appeared beside them holding a small wooden box. "We found them," he said simply. "Tracked down every pawn shop in 3 states until we located them. Bought them back. They belonged to Marcus." Inside the box were other items. Marcus's father's wedding ring that Derek had also sold. His military challenge coins. His unit patch. His combat knife. Every single piece of Sergeant Marcus Williams that Derek had stolen and sold for drug and alcohol money. The Russo family had tracked down and recovered. Some items cost hundreds of dollars. Some cost thousands. Dominic paid every price without hesitation because these weren't just objects. They were legacy. They were a fallen hero's memory. They were a son's inheritance. "How much do I owe you?" Angela asked, overwhelmed. "Nothing," Dominic said firmly. "This is what family does. We protect what matters." Marcus put the dog tags around his neck with trembling hands. "My dad was a hero," he said proudly, standing straighter, looking stronger than the broken child from 6 months ago. "So are you," Dominic replied. "You saved yourself and your mom by being brave enough to ask for help. That's heroic, Marcus. Never forget that." The parade started. Military vehicles rolled past. Veterans marched in formation. Families waved flags. And then came the motorcycles, 50 of them, ridden by veterans from Sergeant Williams' old unit. Lisa Martinez led them, and when she saw Marcus and Angela, she stopped. The entire parade stopped. Lisa dismounted and approached Marcus, then did something that made every person watching start crying. She saluted him. A full military salute to a 7-year-old boy. Not because of what he'd done, but to honor his father through him. Every veteran in that parade saluted Marcus Williams. 50 people honoring a fallen brother by showing respect to his son. Marcus didn't know how to salute back properly, but he tried, his small hand coming up to his forehead in an approximation that was perfect because it came from the heart. "Will Derek ever come back?" Marcus asked quietly after the parade ended. "Never," Marco promised, kneeling beside him. "We made sure of that. He's in prison where he belongs. And even if he gets out in 15 years, he knows what happens if he even thinks about you or your mom. He'll never risk it. He's a coward, and cowards stay away from protected people." Marcus hugged Marco suddenly, this tiny boy throwing his arms around a man who'd killed people with those same hands that now gently hugged him back. "Thank you for saving us," Marcus whispered. "Thank you for reminding us why we do this," Marco replied, his voice rough with emotion. "You saved us, kid. Reminded us that underneath all the business and territory and money, we're supposed to protect people. You gave us purpose again." That Sunday, Marcus showed up for his community service like always. But this time he brought something. A drawing he'd made in art class. It showed 15 men in suits surrounding a small boy and his mother. At the top in crayon letters, it said "My family." Dominic hung that drawing in his office where it stayed for 20 years. A reminder that power without purpose is just tyranny. That strength without compassion is just bullying. That being feared is empty unless you use that fear to protect those who can't protect themselves. Marcus still visited every Sunday. Not because he had to anymore. Not because of community service or debt to society. But because that's what family does. You show up. You stay connected. You honor the people who showed up when you needed them most. 10 years passed like pages turning in a book, and Marcus Williams grew from that terrified 7-year-old into a 17-year-old young man who carried himself with confidence and purpose. He stood 6 feet tall now, lean and strong, his father's dog tag still around his neck every single day without exception. Every Sunday for a decade, he'd shown up at Russo family headquarters, and what started as community service became something nobody expected. Education. Real education. The kind you don't get in schools. Dominic taught him about business strategy, about reading people, about understanding motivation and leverage. Sal taught him computers and digital security until Marcus could hack systems that supposedly couldn't be hacked. Marco taught him combat skills that went way beyond basic self-defense. Tony taught him about loyalty and what it meant to be a man of your word. And through it all, Marcus learned the most important lesson. Power is a tool. It's not good or evil. It's what you do with it that matters. His mother, Angela, had transformed completely. She was head nurse at the VA hospital now, running an entire department, helping hundreds of veterans and their families every year. She'd turned her trauma into a mission. She'd started a non-profit organization specifically for Gold Star families who were being exploited by predators. She worked with lawyers, social workers, and military organizations to identify and stop abusers before they could destroy more families. She'd saved 17 families in 10 years. 17 women and their children who didn't have to suffer like she had. That was legacy. That was taking pain and turning it into purpose. On Marcus's 17th birthday, Dominic called him into his office for a private conversation. The drawing Marcus had made 10 years ago still hung on the wall, faded now, but precious. "Sit down," Dominic said. "We need to talk about your future." Marcus sat in the leather chair across from the desk, no longer scared, no longer small, but respectful because that's what you showed to the man who'd saved your life. "You've been coming here every Sunday for 10 years, Dominic continued. "You've learned everything we could teach you. You're smart, capable, disciplined, and loyal. Those qualities make you dangerous in the best way. So I'm going to offer you a choice, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer." Dominic slid an envelope across the desk. Inside was a letter. An acceptance letter from the United States Military Academy at West Point. Full scholarship. Everything paid. Marcus stared at the letter, his hands shaking. "How did you?" "I made some calls," Dominic said simply. "Your grades are excellent. Your test scores are outstanding. Your essay about your father was powerful. And you had some very impressive letters of recommendation from people in high places. People who owe me favors. This is your chance, Marcus. Your chance to follow your father's path. Become an officer. Lead soldiers. Serve your country with honor. Be the hero he was." "But," Marcus started. "But nothing," Dominic interrupted. "I know what you're thinking. You think you owe us. You think because we helped you, you need to stay here and work for the family. That's loyalty, and I respect it. But Marcus, the best way you can honor what we did for you is to become something greater. Your father died protecting people. You can do the same. Legitimately. Honorably. Without the complications of our world." Marcus looked at this man who'd been more of a father to him than Derek ever pretended to be. "What if I want to stay? What if I want to work for you? For the family? Then you'd be making a mistake," Dominic said firmly. "Marcus, I've done things I'm not proud of. Built an organization on fear and violence. Made money in ways that hurt people. I justified it by telling myself we had a code. That we protected our community. That we were necessary. And maybe that's partially true. But you have a chance to protect people without compromising your soul. To use power that comes from authority and legitimacy instead of fear. Take it. Don't waste it." "What does my mom think?" Marcus asked. "She thinks you should follow your heart," Dominic replied. But she also thinks your father would want you at West Point more than anything in the world. Marcus held the acceptance letter like it was fragile and precious. If I go, does that mean I'm not family anymore? Dominic stood and walked around the desk, pulling Marcus into a hug that was fierce and genuine. You're always family. Blood doesn't make family. Choice makes family. Loyalty makes family. Going to West Point doesn't change that. It honors it. You'll always have a place here. Always have protection. Always have people who will drop everything if you need help. That never changes. Marcus hugged him back, this teenager hugging the Mafia boss who'd given him everything. Thank you, Marcus whispered. For saving us. For teaching me. For showing me what real strength looks like. Thank you, Dominic replied, his voice thick with emotion. For reminding us why power exists. To protect innocence. To stop predators. To make the world a little less dark. 3 months later, the entire Russo family attended Marcus's graduation from high school. 30 made men in expensive suits sitting in a high school auditorium watching a Gold Star kid accept awards for academic excellence, leadership, and community service. When Marcus walked across that stage as valedictorian, the Mafia soldiers stood and applauded so loudly the principal had to ask them to sit down. Marcus's speech was about family. Not the family you're born into, but the family you choose. The people who show up when the world is dark. The people who protect you when you can't protect yourself. The people who see potential in broken things and help them become whole. He never mentioned the Mafia specifically, but every person in that room knew exactly who he was talking about. That summer before West Point, Marcus spent every day at Russo headquarters. Not as community service. As goodbye. He said goodbye to every soldier, every associate, every person who'd been part of his journey. They gave him gifts. Practical things. A high-quality watch. A leather wallet. A knife for protection. But also sentimental things. Photos of him growing up in their world. Stories about his father from veterans who'd served with Sergeant Williams. Letters of advice about leadership and honor and staying true to yourself. The night before Marcus left for West Point, Dominic threw a dinner. Not at the restaurant. At his private home. His actual home where almost nobody ever got invited. Angela was there. Lisa Martinez was there. The lawyer Robertson was there. Sal, Marco, Tony, and 15 other soldiers who'd been there that first night 10 years ago. They ate and laughed and told stories. And when dinner ended, Dominic stood to make a toast. 10 years ago, a brave kid walked up to 15 dangerous men and asked to be arrested for stealing a candy bar. That kid was starving, abused, desperate. He thought jail was safer than home. And that kid taught us something we'd forgotten. That power without compassion is just tyranny. That being feared is meaningless if you don't use that fear to protect the innocent. Marcus Williams reminded us who we're supposed to be. Not just criminals. Not just businessmen. But protectors. Guardians of our community. Defenders of those who can't defend themselves. Tomorrow he leaves for West Point. He'll become an officer. A leader. A hero like his father. And we'll be proud. So proud. Because we didn't just save him. He saved us. He gave us purpose again. Reminded us that our power means something when we use it right. Everyone raised their glasses. To Marcus Williams, Dominic declared. Son of a hero. Brother to warriors. Family forever. To Marcus. Everyone echoed. Marcus stood, fighting tears. You gave me everything, he said, his voice cracking. Food when I was starving. Safety when I was terrified. Family when I was alone. Education when I was ignorant. Purpose when I was lost. I'll never forget what you did. I'll spend my entire life trying to pay it forward. That's all we ask, Dominic replied. Go be great, Marcus. Be the officer your father would be proud of. Protect people who can't protect themselves. Lead with honor. Make us proud. And remember, no matter where you go or what you become, you'll always have family here. Always have backup. Always have a place to come home to. Marcus left for West Point the next morning in a convoy of black SUVs. Because even though he was joining the legitimate world, the Russo family wasn't taking chances with his safety. They drove him all the way to the academy gates, these dangerous men delivering this precious cargo to the place where he'd become something even more dangerous. A leader. 4 years later, 2nd Lieutenant Marcus Williams graduated from West Point in the top 10% of his class. The entire Russo family attended in suits that cost more than most people's cars. They sat in the audience watching him receive his commission, watching him take his oath, watching him become an officer. Dominic cried. He wasn't ashamed. These were tears of pride. Tears of watching a broken child become a powerful man. Tears of knowing that their intervention 10 years ago had created something beautiful. After the ceremony, Marcus approached them in his dress uniform, looking sharp and official and strong. "How do I look?" he asked. "Like your father," Dominic said simply. "Like a hero." Marcus hugged each of them. These men who'd saved him, taught him, protected him, loved him like family. Then he saluted them, a proper military salute full of respect and gratitude. They saluted back, made men showing military respect to a brand new lieutenant. "Where are they sending you?" Marco asked. "Afghanistan," Marcus said. "Same province where my father died. Same unit, actually. They requested me specifically when they saw my name. I'm going to walk the same ground he walked. Protect people the way he protected people. Honor his sacrifice by continuing his mission." "That's perfect," Tony said. "You'll make him proud." "I already am proud," Angela said, appearing beside her son in a dress that actually fit properly now, healthy and whole and strong. "Your father would be so proud of who you've become. So am I. So are all of us." Marcus looked at this collection of people who'd saved his life. A mafia boss, soldiers and enforcers, his mother, a Marine sergeant, a veteran's lawyer. This impossible family that had formed around a desperate child's plea for help. "Thank you," Marcus said. "For everything. For seeing me. For saving me. For showing me what real strength looks like." "Thank you," Dominic replied. "For reminding us why we exist. Now go be great, Lieutenant Williams. Go protect people. Go be the hero." And Marcus Williams did exactly that. He served 3 tours in Afghanistan with distinction, earned a Bronze Star for valor, led his unit with the same honor and courage his father had, protected people who couldn't protect themselves. And every single Sunday when he was stateside, no matter what, he showed up at Russo family headquarters. Not for community service, not out of obligation, but because that's what family does. You show up. You stay connected. You honor the people who honored you. The little boy who begged the Mafia to arrest him grew up to become the man who arrested injustice wherever he found it. And the dangerous men who saved him learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do with power is use it to protect innocence instead of destroying it. Sometimes the most dangerous people in the world are the ones who choose to protect the innocent, and sometimes a child's cry for help can transform everyone who hears it. Hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment and tell me what you think about this incredible story of redemption and family. Share this with everyone who needs to know that family is choice, not just blood. This is the content that changes perspectives. Don't miss our next story.